Hello, everybody. So today we're going to take a look at Delta Module 1, Paper 2, Task 2. Previously, we've done a video on Paper 2, Task 3, so please feel free to check that out on our YouTube channel as well as our website. Now, this task is a longer written response, so sometimes you might feel a little bit intimidated, especially if you're taking this exam for the very first time. The structure and the format, it might be a little bit complex, but don't worry, we're going to break it down in this video, and you're also going to see a sample response. The task is a total of 42 marks. So if you practice this one really well, you'll be able to tackle the entire exam with good scores. Now let's take a look at the actual content that is required for this task. We have analysis of resources on English language teaching, published materials for learners. Then we have approaches and methodologies. There are many different books on this, and we can do a separate video um, on what you can read for this task later on. Then we have learners and context. Again, there's a lot of good reading materials, but you will get a lot of this information from your actual teaching context, especially if your language school or institute uses English language teaching materials. So you can think about what thoughts have gone behind a certain author designing the materials a certain way. Now let's look at the format. Now, you always have some kind of a published extract from some course book material, based on which you'll have to identify three things. So the first one is the purpose of individual activities and stages in the material. Is it language focus? Is it skills focus? And what exactly it is? So you'll have to specify it and link it to the overall purpose of the material, which will always be given to you. Then there's how other activities and stages in the material support them. These will always also be specified. So support can be in the form of further exploration. It can be practice, consolidation. Some activities are for increasing the level of challenge, for example. And then the last one, which is my favorite, is identifying key assumptions, explaining them with examples from the given extract. Now, this format has changed a little bit in recent years. So, again, the focus is still on the principles of materials design. So, you still have to think about the thought process that has gone behind the author designing the materials a certain way, what assumptions they might have. Um, then the explanation of those assumptions about why the material was designed a certain way, and then linking it to a particular exercise. Now, lately, we have been doing this by giving two reasons. So the explanation part involves two reasons why an author might think this certain learning theory or whatever principle they've used is important. And we'll see this when we go to the sample response part. So always remember that the overall language learning purpose is always given, and as long as you know it, you'll be able to answer part A really well, and the rest of the parts are sort of dependent on it. So as you can see, there are 3 points here. The first one is part A. So part A, the purpose of individual activities. This can be different depending on the overall learning purpose. So as long as you know that learning purpose, you will not make an error here. This is such a common mistake for test takers. Then let's take a look at the marks breakup. So parts A and B, they have 24 marks. So each one you can make up to 6 points. That will give you a total of 12 marks maximum in part A and in part B as well. That's 24. Then part C has 18 marks, one for assumption, one for explanation, and one for each exercise. So if you make a total of 6 assumptions, you're getting 6 marks. If you've explained them, you're getting another 6 marks. And then if you're linking them to an exercise, you're getting a further 6 marks for a total of 18 marks. Now, the contents in detail are all related to specific skills that you need in order to tackle this task. So that includes being able to analyze and evaluate materials, being able to apply different learning theories in different learners' contexts, Again, ELT approaches, methodologies, and techniques, which will be part of all of these activities and stages that you'll see in the task. And finally, the theories of first and second language acquisition in relation to all of these resources. Let's take a look at a recap of all the parts before we see the sample. So part A is identifying the main purpose of each of these exercises, activities, or stages in the material that is given to you and relating them to the purpose of the extract as a whole, the overall purpose of the extract. Again, I can't emphasize it enough. It's a common error to lose focus from the overall purpose and lose points in part A and then part B, and it continues to part C. In part B, you have to see how the activities and stages combine with those in part A and comment on them. Sometimes there'll be a specific focus and sometimes it'll be more general, but it will always be given to you what area you have to focus on if there's any. And then part C, there are 6 key assumptions to be made about language learning or skills development from parts A and B. The explanation as to why the authors might find them important. Usually, most Delta tutors recommend us to write reason 1 and reason 2, so 2 reasons for this. And then the reference to the exercise number for evidence from the actual material or the extract given to you. With that said, let's look at one sample material. So I have not included the actual question material or the extract, but a description of it as the resolution was not enough. So here I have the explanation of it. So the first part, before we even begin, it has the first page. The total exercise is divided into 2 pages. So here we have extracts from a pocket dictionary with pictures, and some parts are circled. For example, word classes, pronunciation, and plurals. And there's a multiple choice question about word definitions. It has 6 questions with 3 options, out of which one is wrong, and the wrong one has to be identified. Then there's part A, thinking about word and meanings. This is on the 2nd page of the book. So exercise to find an example of each word class from the earlier dictionary, completing the sentences by replacing images with words. That's the second one. And completing the sentences using each word twice. For example, a book and to book as a verb. So a book is a noun and to book is a verb. Then we have part B, pronunciation in the dictionary. So exercise 4 is about matching the words with the pronunciation and checking in a dictionary. So wait, W-A-I-T versus wait, W-E-I-G-H-T. Finding the pronunciation of the given words and trying to say them. That's number 5. For example, debt with the silent B. And 6, listening to an audio and checking the audio is part of the book. Then there's part C, which is reading definitions and responding. So exercise 7 is to find the wrong answer with the partner based on the initial exercise. Then there's an audio to listen and check. And there's a part in part 9 to make definitions from the table. So for example, you have 3 columns and you have to connect items in the column to get a correct sentence. For example, salmon is a kind of fish. I see that salmon is spelled wrong here. Then we have D, grammar in the dictionary. Complete the table with word classes, abbreviations, examples. So for example, ADJ, adjective, slow. Then 11, complete the story with plurals, past tense, etc. Use dictionary. And there's a grammar bank reference provided in the book as well. Finally, ABCD put it all together. So there are 2 exercises, 12 and 13. 12 is to work in fours, which means there are 2 pairs, A and B. So adding a wrong definitions in questions 2 and 3 based on 2 separate dictionaries given in the book, and completing the missing example in question 3, and then taking turns to be pairs A and B and guessing the wrong definitions. And that's all of the second page given of the extract. Now we can take a look at the answer. So part A, 2A, as part of learning how to use a dictionary and knowing a word well. That is the overall purpose that is given. So we have to identify 6 purposes of the exercises related to this overall purpose. So exercise names are here, A1, A2, and A3. A1 is to expose learners to the first characteristic of dictionaries or words. That's polysemy. That's the first characteristic here. You can take a look at the definition of the word polysemy. And sometimes if you don't know the word, you can describe it. That's okay as well. So instead of polysemy, you can describe what it is about. Then this one, the purpose is also to notice the word classes of different dictionary entries and associate them with different word meanings. The second one, A2, is using words with pictures, again, to discover polysemy. That is, one word can have many different meanings. And this is an important characteristic of dictionary entries. So words can have different meanings. And then we have A3, where learners are given the opportunity to practice polysemy with a more demanding task. So using a word with different meanings in different examples or contexts, which they may see in a dictionary. So that's all of 2A. Then we also have the other task that is given, that is B4, B5, and B6. This is also 2A. In B4, there's homophony, which means two words with different spellings can have the same sounds, and to associate them with the phonetic scripts. Then we have the words may have silent letters or unusual pronunciation. And again, a reference to phonetic script. And finally, deciphering the pronunciation with the help of a dictionary. So these are the different purposes that the student has thought about. Then we will move on to part B. So here again, there are 6 ways. There are exercises given, so C7 and C9. How are they supporting the exercises in part A? So we've seen 6 exercises mentioned in part A. Now look at this one. It's mentioned that it is supporting A2 and A3 by further practice in consolidation, concept checking the meaning of the words. And what's C9 doing? It has examples of homophones from B4, so we're linking it to B4 and helping learners consolidate the idea that a dictionary can have words with the same sounds but different spellings. Then again, another one on C9, because remember, we have to find 6 different points. So we're repeating another one with C9. So it expands on the idea of polysemic words. I think the specific exercise from A is not mentioned from part A, but I like the idea that here they're also mentioning antonymy, meronymy, metonymy. So for example, when you say salmon is a kind of fish, it can be one of these ideas. So it's expanding on the overall idea of polysemic words. And I think it's a very good point made as long as you relate it to the earlier exercises. Then we have this one, grammar in the dictionary, which is D10 and D11. So D10, increasing the level of challenge from A1. D11, again, we're using A1, exploiting plurality. Plurality is an important point related to nouns. There's a mention of word classes as well. And then again, we're using D11 one more time, but this time relating it to activity A3. So using it in a different context, so more of application and a more holistic approach to using a dictionary. Okay, that's part B. As you can see, we've made 6 points, and now we move on to here, words and meanings, A1 and A3. So we're thinking about assumptions here. This is part C. The exercise, the assumption is here. So the author believes in the structural approach, systematic knowledge, and it has the fact that it has to be taught explicitly. And there are 2 reasons given. One is motivation. Yes, especially in some cultures that can happen. They tend to require a lot more motivation and exploring something in more depth, in this case, polysemy. Now, the second one, again, this is an assumption. You can see that all of the exercises are already linked. So assumption here is it is important to learn vocabulary in an appropriate context, but not in isolation. So this is a good one. I think it comes from Lewis, grammaticalized lexis as opposed to lexicalized grammar. And then we have this one here. It can develop higher order thinking skills, in this case, application, which is the 3rd level in Bloom's taxonomy. Then we go to the next one. Again, the mention of the exercises here, we have the assumption. Here it talks about discovery. It's a good idea to learn word meanings in different contexts through discovery. So learners can retain concepts better. It's an inductive approach. And then we have increased autonomy, which is crucial to dictionary skills, because dictionary, it can be learned on your own, and it can make you better able to self-manage your own things. Then we have exercise A3 here. Again, you can see how the exercises are linked in every single section. Assumption 4, using words and control settings before freer practice will help learners remember the meaning and use. Cognitive skills is the first reason given, and comprehension and memory retention. And then we have giving learners an easier challenge before they do more difficult tasks, which is coming from the zone of proximity development by Gotsky. And then here we have another exercise mentioned. The assumption is about associating words with sounds. Remember that you don't always have to mention the exact author or the exact name or of the theory or methodology, but you can also put it in your own words, which is what the learner has done here. So here you can see the first reason, English is not a phonetic language, so there should be some focus on spelling and pronunciation, and you might find the dictionary more useful this way if you can also use it for pronunciation and not just meaning. So again, terminology is important. You might not know every single word related to the theory, but you can still express your ideas and get the point. The last one here is this one, making connections. Again, going into language learning theories because of the mental or cognitive effort and the prior knowledge to expand the knowledge of a word. So that's interesting as well. You can read all of these different points in the sample response in detail. Remember that we also do task feedback for you, lesson observations, tutorials and courses, and anything else you might need to become successful in any of the ELT exams. Please visit our website. The link will be given below. Thank you for watching, and please let us know what else you would like to watch in our future videos. Bye-bye.